Are you tired of living on autopilot? Are you ready to start embracing your one precious life? Welcome to the Wake Up to Your Life podcast. I'm your host, Colleen Odegaard. Hi there. So many podcasts out there in the land of podcasts, and yet you find yourself listening to this one. And for that, I thank you. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. Wake up to your life. I came up with this title for this show, and it's the tagline for my coaching business because of this notion that so many of us are sleepwalking through our lives, that we are going through our days, we're going through our moments on autopilot, where things feel kind of ho-hum, the same old routine every day. Maybe things feel a little stale. You're not growing in any way. You sort of feel stuck in a rut. Do you know what I'm talking about? When you look back on the last year of your life, the last 5 years, the last 10 years, and you think, kind of the same as it was last year. My relationships haven't expanded. My career is in the toilet. I haven't lost the weight. I haven't gotten out of debt. I never did that thing I said I was going to do. And then maybe you think, well, I guess this is just the way that it is. This is just my life. Well, I'm here to tell you, my friends, I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. And I'm here to tell you as your coach, as your friend, as someone who perhaps you've grown to trust over the years, if you're one of the 10 people who still watches local television. By the way, that's a joke. If you're working at the TV station, please have a sense of humor. I'm kidding. But I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to be that way. You're not destined for a life of mediocrity. You really, truly can experience more of what brings you life and energy and excitement and change your day-to-day experience. It really begins with the desire to wake up. The desire to wake up, to be drawn to the experience of awakening. So if we choose to stay in this sort of sleepwalking state, catatonic, stay in our slumber, we'll continue to check out of our lives by seeking temporary pleasure and comfort. And I'm talking about the things that we do like, binge watching Netflix for 8 hours, or overspending, spending money we don't have, obsessive shopping, eating when it's not to satisfy hunger, drinking, having another glass of wine when you're spending, 2 hours scrolling through social media, very low value activity. And by the way, hi, who's done all those things? I have. And you know what? None of those things ever got me any closer to living a more vibrant life. None of them have. We're made for more than that. We are all made for more than that kind of an existence. And if we're not intentional with how we spend our time, literally years can pass and life looks the same. And I know this, you guys, because I have done this. My friends have done this. My clients have done this. And I believe with everything in me, we need to wake up to this one precious life that we have. And I want to talk to you about how we do this, how I did this for myself, how I coach other people through this process. And let me be very clear. This is not meant to be just sort of a pump you up, like you go girl, you go dude, live your best life, hashtag awesome, hashtag living my best life. It's not meant to be that type of a podcast. The content that you will get here will contain practical, doable things, practices you can put into place to start to create real change in your life, in all aspects of your life, with your relationships, your health, your career, the way you parent. I did spend years on autopilot, going through the motions of my day. And I think some people are kind of surprised by that. I think outside looking in, might look to some people like aspects of my life are kind of glamorous. I think the TV thing makes people think that, right? And I have a nice family. I've got a handsome husband and great kids. And so I think outside looking in, people think like I've had it totally made. But I really did spend years on autopilot, just going through the motions of the day, trying to make it to the end of the day when I could just watch TV or have a glass of wine or eat ice cream. I'd start the day Tell me if you can relate. I'd start the day with these great intentions. Like, I'm going to eat clean. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to spend time working on my dreams, working towards my goals. But then, I'm not kidding y'all, by like mid-morning, I would be grumbling or complaining and putting my dreams yet on hold again, dreams deferred. And this checking out for me was really my escape from the limiting belief that I had about myself, which was, I'm not enough. I'm not enough. I believed that like it was my full-time job to believe it, like it was part of my DNA coursing through my veins, in my blood. For years, I had the belief that I'm not enough, not pretty enough, smart enough, cool enough, fun enough, thin enough, successful enough, rich enough, talented enough, just general not enoughness. And this not enough mentality began for me in childhood. I grew up in a very severely dysfunctional home, very volatile home, and I got the messaging early on that love was conditional, that I was lovable if I fill in the blank, like if I was good enough, if I cleaned my room, if I got good grades. And the criteria were always changing. The criteria for that were always changing. So I was very anxious trying to perform and be a certain way, act a certain way so that I could be lovable, worthy of love. Then when I think I was about 11 years old when the tics started. I would blink repeatedly, just over and over again. I'd close my eyes as tightly as I could until it almost hurt, and I'd open them, and I'd do it again and again and again, 50 times. I'd blink repeatedly. I would open and close my mouth wide, open wide. I'm doing it right now as I tell you this. Open it wide and shut it. And I would do that over and over again. I would fling my head over my left shoulder so severely in this fast jerking motion that my neck would ache and I would have throbbing headaches. I would also sniff like that and clear my throat like that obsessively. Or I would fixate on a word and I would have to say it out loud over and over and over again. And I remember when I would do that at the dinner table, in particular, the throwing my head over my left shoulder thing. That was a very bad tic I had for a long time. And I remember doing that at the dinner table. And my mother would say, stop that. She would say, try control, try control. My mother is from Vietnam and speaks broken English, has a very thick Vietnamese accent. And she would say, try control, try control. And she would stare at me and so disapprovingly that I could just feel it. I could feel it. And the shame that I carried was just almost paralyzing to me. And I wanted so badly to stop doing these things, but I physically, I couldn't. I couldn't stop. And I remember being in bed at night as a child and pleading with God. And to be clear, not having an understanding of who God is. I did not grow up in a religious household. I'm a Christian woman now. I'm a believer, but I did not grow up in a religious home. And I remember sort of bargaining with God and pleading with God and saying, God, I will be so good. I will be such a good student. I will be such a good girl if you can just help me stop doing this. But the tics didn't stop. God did not deliver me from that. They did not stop. In fact, they only got worse. And I had no explanation as to what was going on with my body. And I had not one single person to talk to about this. And in my child brain, the best I could come up with was that maybe I was possessed by demons. I thought that, and that freaked me out, totally freaked me out. Turns out I had Tourette syndrome, and I still have Tourette syndrome as a 49-year-old woman. Tourette syndrome, for those of you who don't know, it's a neurological disorder. It's not a disease. It's a neurological disorder. It's characterized by a series of physical and verbal tics. My anxiety just grew worse over the years, going back to childhood now. I had no one to teach me anything about what to do with uncomfortable feelings. And I think that's very common for most of us. For most of us, that was not modeled very well when we were children, right? What to do with feelings of not enoughness or feelings of not being okay or, sort of the uncomfortable emotions. And for me, that led to checking out. I had my first experience with binge eating. I believe I was 12 years old. I ate an entire box of wheat thins. And I remember liking that I could eat obscene amounts of food and that would sort of quell and calm the icky feelings I had on the inside, at least temporarily. They temporarily calmed them down. And this led to years of figurative sleepwalking that I talk about, not literal sleepwalking, but, just kind of checking out, binge eating, and taking part in other checking out behaviors, right, that we'll talk about in future episodes. Fast forward to college, and I study broadcast journalism. I declare that as my major. And y'all, let me just say to you, I wish I could say to you that I started my career in journalism because it was some noble calling in my life, that I had this burning desire to tell stories and to serve my community. But that would be a lie if I said that. That's what led me to it. I got into it because I wanted to be the chick on TV. I thought that was cool. I liked the attention, the acceptance, the accolades that I thought that could bring. It made me special in my brain, right? It made me somebody. And I thought that would make me enough. That enough feeling that I was lacking, I thought that would make me enough. But as we all know, because we've all done this at one point or another, when our worth and value is dependent upon outside forces, what other people say or think about us, or how much money we have in the bank, or how many accomplishments we have or degrees we have, we know that just doesn't work very well. So many of you are walking around with the belief that you're not enough. And I know this because of 30 years of interviewing thousands of people. And in my work now as a personal development and life coach, I know that so many of us are walking around with these feelings, and it grieves my heart. And let me be clear, this isn't just women. This plagues men too. Men worry if they've got what it takes, if they're competent, if they're tough enough. When you walk around thinking that you are not enough, you will check out of your life. You will live on autopilot. You will live on autopilot, and your dreams won't be fulfilled. So how do we change this? How do we begin to change this? Well, I want you to start with this. Think about what you're thinking about. Get very clear what your thoughts are. What do you think about when you think about yourself? Become acutely aware of the running loops and narratives you have on replay in your brain. Notice them. I just want you to notice them. We can start right there. Notice the thoughts that you have, and then begin to question them. I like examples. Examples help me learn. So I'm going to give you an example from my own life, a recent one. So I've been wanting to create this podcast that you're listening to right now for, I think it's been 3 years. I've had this idea, but I keep telling myself the thoughts that I'm having are, oh, there's so many podcasts out there in self-development. There's no room for mine. The world doesn't need another one, another coach, blah, 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 blah. All these like just poopy pants thoughts, right? So what did I end up with? No podcast. Until this very moment, of course, until I changed the thoughts. And I learned instead to think, like I had to change those thoughts. I had to notice I was having them and then question them, poke holes in them, and learn instead to think, I have the right to create. I have permission to talk and to tell my story, to share what I've learned, to teach. No one else's podcast will be exactly like mine, and mine doesn't need to be exactly like anyone else's, because no one can do this from my point of view. And I had to remind myself there's not a finite amount of podcasts or good ideas that can exist. There's not. So I questioned my thoughts and believed something different, but it all started with awareness of what was happening in my mind. So in future episodes, I'll walk you through how to change your thoughts. If you're having thoughts about, your body, that, oh, I'm so fat, I'll help you change that thought and believe something different about yourself in all aspects of your life. But again, this week, I just want you to notice what you think about when you think about yourself, and also to pay attention to what you do, how you really spend your time during the day. Did you do anything that was fun just for the heck of it because it brings you joy? Did you do anything that helped your heart to expand? Did you do anything to help or serve someone else? Are you so busy running around from one thing to the next? Your day is filled with a bunch of stuff, but by the end of it, you're just exhausted and you still don't feel accomplished? I want you to notice it. Notice what you're doing in the day, what you're thinking and what you're actually doing, how you really spend your time. Bonus points for you, by the way, if you write this stuff down in a journal. Oh, I tell my clients to do this. Write down your thoughts, because when you see them on paper, you're like, wow, God, no wonder I feel so crummy and I'm not taking any action in my life because I'm thinking all these negative things. I will remind you now that you are loved because God says so, and you are worthy because God says so. And if that doesn't speak to you, you know, okay, then you are loved and worthy because you're alive and here on this planet Earth. And I don't care what you've done in your past. I don't care what you've done in your past or what other people may have told you about yourself. I was told many, many things about myself by people who allegedly loved me, people in the professional world, you know, and they were difficult things. And I walked around, I carried that stuff for so long, and it affected who I thought I was. I want you to know that you are worthy of a life full of love and excitement and energy and passion. You have to believe it's possible. It used to irritate the hell out of me. I used to be so annoyed when people would say, like, you have to believe anything's possible, because they sort of felt like empty words to me when people would throw them out there. But now I truly get on a cellular level that you have to believe it's possible to change your life. If you want to change your life, you truly have to believe it's possible to change it. And I'm going to walk you through some of the ways we can do that. I will be here through this podcast and on social media to provide coaching tips for you and having conversations with experts in, you know, one of the benefits of being in television for so long, people will take my call, y'all. They will answer my phone call, and I appreciate that. God's given me favor with people, and I'm grateful for it. But I'll be having conversations with experts in parenting and marriage and self-development and career coaches and faith leaders and people with kick-ass stories that are going to remind you of what's possible for you. So be aware of your thoughts this week. Be aware of your thoughts. The second the negative ones pop up, please notice them. And I'm talking about that voice that tells you you can't lose the weight, you won't find love if you're a single person and you're looking for love, or that you're stuck in this bad, unfulfilling marriage, that you can't change your job, that you're too old to change your career, you're not good enough. All those thoughts, I want you to notice them. And the second they pop up, I want you to hit Control-Alt-Delete, y'all. Control-Alt-Delete. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for thoughts like that. They do not serve you well in creating a life that you want to live. I know that waking up to your life, waking up can feel really scary. It feels really scary to wake up because it feels so nice and comfy, cozy in our coping behaviors, right? I know that. But these temporary solutions that we find to get through the discomfort that we feel the moment that we're challenged really are such a poor substitution for stepping into the life that we are really being called to live. I believe that we all have an assignment from God, you know, that we're being called into a bigger life than maybe what we're living. And the world needs more of us living from what's best and most beautiful in us, as opposed to being stuck in the narratives in our heads that we've constructed. So here's to waking up. Here's to waking up to your life, everyone. Until next time, I'm Colleen Odegaard. I'm sending you love and positivity as you think about what it is that you want to create in your life. Again, this week, your homework is to notice your thoughts and notice how you're really spending your time day to day. Thanks Thanks for listening to the Wake Up to Your Life podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, take a moment to subscribe for free on your favorite podcast platform. And while you're there, would you do me a favor and give this show a rating and leave a review? Doing so helps other people to find this show. You can follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at Colleen_Odegaard. That's at Colleen_ODEGAARD. And if you're interested in learning more about my coaching programs, check out my website, wakeuptoyourlife.net. That's it for now. Talk to you soon.